Good morning, everyone. I'm Joanne Koontz. I'm here with my partner, Marina Parkin, and Coach of the Year, John Seiffer.
It's a short year, so we're okay.
It's a short year, yeah. In the short month of the short year, so far you're winning. We are bringing you part 2 of John's series, Do You Want More Sales? And as you get this far into 2021, maybe you're going to say, no, I don't. I canceled the subscription to 21. It looks too much like 20, and we're not going to renew. So as always, our webinars are recorded and they will be distributed to you after this broadcast. And also they'll be available on our YouTube channel, on the Koontz Associates and KoontzParkin.com web pages. And also you can find them on our Facebook. So without further ado, we will pop it over to you, John. Folks, if you have questions, you're welcome to use the Q&A box at the bottom.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Let me share the screen here. And even if you don't now, at some point you will want more sales, and maybe in a few years or whatever, we'll do it then. But I call this part 2 the buyer's journey, because it really is about what the buyers are doing and how we can react to that. Salespeople, sort of like parents, don't have complete control over what the other being is doing in the relationship, but you can learn a lot about how to respond and how to move things forward. So I'll also review a little bit about part 1, although part 1 is up there on the web. And I'd like to start out by saying thanks to Marina and Joanne for having me here. And I feel like I'm in a 12-step program whenever I say this. My name is John Seiffer. I've been a business owner my whole life, and I hate selling. I love sales. I love making sales, but despite hating selling, I've made very profitable businesses throughout my career, and I've actually done a lot of sales. So now I consult with owners of growing companies about how they can learn faster and easier through some of my mistakes, so you don't have to make all of your own. You can make different ones. And this works even if you hate selling, but it is something that has to be done in your company, and so that's what we're going to get into today. So as always, don't write down, my suggestion is don't take notes about what you see and hear. This will be recorded, but write down things that you will do. So I like to take notes in a thing called OneNote, which is a software. You can do it in a physical CEO notebook, whatever works for you. But write down the things you're inspired to do, even if they don't seem relevant to today's topic. They'll spark things in your non-conscious mind. Obviously, a sale is great. Do you remember your first sale? I was thinking about this. I don't remember my first business was a waterbed store back in the day. It was the only business I had that didn't make money. All of them since have made money. But the first one I remember was I'd started a window cleaning company, and I bought a bit of equipment, and I knocked on the door of an ice cream store. And the woman who was there said, sure, go ahead, clean the windows. I think it was $10 or something. And I cleaned the windows. And I said, I'll be back next week. We're going to do this on a regular basis. Great. So it was exciting. I kept knocking on other doors, got a few more accounts, came back the next week. And it turned out she didn't have the authority to hire me. Her boyfriend was the one that had done the windows normally, and she and he were having a fight, so that's why she hired me. The owner found this out, stepped in, said, sorry, no, we're giving it back to the other guy. And I lost that account. But by then I had had so much success that I was kind of hooked. So like I said, a sale is great, but a sales system is better. And a system is a way that you as the business owner, or if you're the VP of sales or maybe the CEO, your job is to develop a system for repeatable sales. And there's 3 parts to a good sales system. One is the personas, the second is the pipeline, and the third is how you track your progress. Who are you selling to? This is something we covered in part 1 in a little more depth. And why do they buy? You have to know why people buy so that you can sell to them, and then the words that resonate with them to talk about why they should buy from you. That's your marketing message. So this means you want to know not just their demographic data, oh, there's this age, this, gender or whatever, but you want to know psychologically what motivates them. What do they believe? Why should they resonate with you? What do they enjoy? What makes them make a decision? And the why, again, means what benefit they get from working with you, from buying from you. And the words become your marketing message if you can put these things together. And then the second piece is the pipelines. These are the stages of how they buy. And in the sales genre, I guess, or in CRMs, they're typically called a pipeline, has different stages, but it relates to their buying process. And this can be very simple. This can be very complex. If it's an impulse buy, something that, maybe you put an ad out, it pops up on their browser, they click, buy, it's done. Or, the quintessential thing at the grocery store, it's by the checkout counter, and, you haven't thought about gum or that magazine, and okay, I'll buy it. Those are very simple ones. If you sell typically to businesses, then they become more complex, and there's more people involved, et cetera. But this is what we're going to get into today. One of the things to know is, do you sell B2B or B2C? B2B means you're selling a business, you're a business selling to a business, or B2C means you're a business selling to a consumer. And generally those categories have different buying processes and different reasons. And the other thing you want to know is, does your audience, does your market perceive what you're selling as a pain pill or a vitamin? Pain pill, if you're in pain, you got to get that thing. You'll go out to the 24-hour pharmacy or whatever. You're not even waiting for Amazon to deliver it tomorrow. You need that sucker now. Vitamin, yeah, it's going to help you. It's going to make you more healthy, look buff, whatever. But you don't need it right this minute. And in fact, maybe you don't need it at all. But if you're selling, what are you selling and how do people perceive it? That changes the buyer's journey, and it changes your reaction to that. So let's look at the typical buyer's journey. Goes into these 4 stages, which I call clueless, curious, serious, and sold. There's lots of different sales techniques and lots of different sales systems, and they pretty much all have 4 similar categories. By clueless, I don't mean that they're stupid. I just mean that you are not on your radar. They're clueless about you. They're not thinking of your product. They're not thinking of you as a company. Generally, if you're a car manufacturer selling to people, most people are clueless about you and your thing for most of their time, because we don't buy cars every week, most of us. So you have to do something to get on their radar. Curious means they're interested, they're thinking about it, they're not ready to pull the plug right now. And then serious, they are getting ready to do it. And then sold, of course, they're buying. So as a seller, you have to dance with where the buyer is at. And this is a very simplistic overview, these 4 categories, but it's your job, if you're developing a sales process, to learn more about them and to get really into your buyer's head, how that works. The other piece to this is, if you sell to different markets, or if you sell differently based on what you sell, you may have several different buyers' journeys in your world. So I know with the Koontz Group, you guys sell a lot of real estate closings. You sell primarily to realtors. Well, they buy for a whole different process than when you buy somebody who is buying or selling a company and you do the legal work for them. And the work that you guys do for taxes and bookkeeping and things like that, those are also different buyers, different journeys. So you may have several of these different pipelines in your company. But basically, this process of dancing with the buyers requires 2 things. It requires knowing what stage they're at and what they do differently at those different stages, and then knowing what you do differently at each stage. Because you can do the same thing, but if you do it at the wrong stage, you'll turn somebody off and you'll lose the sale. Last time we talked about the things that happened at the beginning of this buyer's journey, and those typically tend to be more on the marketing side. Somebody's clueless. How do you get in front of them? How do you find who they are? How do you reach them so that if they are curious, or if you can spark that curiosity, they will respond in some way? And this time we're going to get further into the process. And we're going to look at these 2 things How do you know their stage, and what do you do based on their stage? I wish I could tell you exactly how to do this. This isn't a recipe like a cookbook. This is different for each kind of thing that you sell and each market that you sell into. But you can figure this out if you think about it from the buyer's perspective. And that's what we're going to look at today, how you can create that system. So the first thing is, are they even on your radar? That means they fit your criteria for the kind of customer you want. That's the persona that we talked about before. You have developed an understanding of who they are. And what you do is you reach out. You tell them can be content marketing, this can be advertising, this can be webinars, this can be back in the before times, there was a lot of public speaking, physical conferences, things like that. Again, depending on your market, there's ways that you reach out. And then there's something that they do that indicates they want to learn more. What is that? That's what you have to define. Do they respond to an email? Do they call you? Do they set an appointment? Do they talk to you at your trade show? Whatever it is, they do something. And then you do something to respond. And the thing you do here is primarily learn. You want to learn about them. You want to learn if they really are a fit, if they're just kicking tires, if there's something you do that actually can meet their need. You want to learn about their motivation, their time frame. These are the kinds of questions you'd like to know the answers to, and I'm not going to read them all here. That's why this is being recorded. You can do it on your own time. But basically, you're trying to learn how serious they are, what their process is, where in that process they are. That's the engagement that you have at that stage. And then they either move forward or back generally. If they are not that serious, then maybe you don't spend that much more time with them. But if they are, then they move to the next stage and they do something to show they're ready. So in some businesses, they send an RFQ. In some businesses, they put you on a list to be a vendor or an approved vendor or whatever. Other cases, they say, yeah, how do we sign up? In other cases, they may start bringing up objections because that shows that they're really serious. If they didn't care enough about this, they wouldn't even bother with the objections. But whatever it is they do in your world, you document how they show how serious they are, and then what you do to close the deal. What do you have to do to work with them to solve their problem, overcome their objections, work through this process, whatever that is. And then, of course, they buy. And what you do based on that stage is you fulfill their purchase and serve them. What's interesting, as I work with lots of businesses, especially the B2B ones, inside the company, there can be a very confusing what it means to make a sale. You might have a salesperson who says, oh, I made the sale when they told me in the email, hey, that sounds great. But somebody at the accounting department may say, well, we don't call it a sale till we get the PO. And somebody else may say, well, it's really a sale when we've sent the invoice. And somebody else may say, well, we count it as a sale when we get the check. So it's important in your organization that you have a simple and a consistent definition for what a sale is. And then once they have made that sale, then what you do should be in the category of under promise and over deliver. You should fulfill their purchase and serve them, but in a way that surprises them actually with how much more they got than they expected. So that's the general flow of how this works. What you want to do as you are developing your sales process and learning about the buyer's journey is take each one of these and on a separate sheet, write down these two things, how you know that they're at that stage and the actions that we take. So again, these are very high level here, but how we know they're at this stage to even bother with is because we have developed a persona. We understand the roles that each person plays in their buying process. And then the actions we take generally fall in the marketing, advertising kind of category. At the curious stage, they have responded somehow. Well, what is a response in your world? That's what you want to document. Ask about their process, and then you want to learn about them. You want to learn, well, how how can we help is generally the first question I like to ask. But what's your time frame? How serious are you? If a lot of times people at this stage, they're not that serious. They're interested, but they're kind of doing research, but they're afraid to say no. When you say, would you like to buy? They just say, well, I'll think about it, or send me a proposal. And that can waste a lot of your time doing proposals to people who are at the curious stage rather than at the serious stage. So one thing I like to do when they ask for a proposal is I say, suppose I give you a proposal and it's absolutely wonderful. What happens next in your world? And they should be willing to tell you that. If they say, well, we then have to send this out and we have to get 6 more bids, and then it has to go to our budget committee, and that meets once every 6 months, and then maybe we'll ask you for a demo, then you can decide if that proposal is really worth it. If they go, oh, well, I'll just run it by my boss, and they generally rubber stamp what I propose, and I think we're good. Well, that's a very different response to what happens next. I knew a guy who, when he was asked this question, he would say, well, what would you like on the proposal? And they would write down, okay, so we want to have this, we want to have this, we want to have this. And he goes, and you want a price, right? And so he would put a price at the bottom of that piece of paper. He'd rip off the piece of paper and go, here's my proposal. It's kind of his snarky way of doing it, but it depends on, again, who your buyers are, et cetera. This in the Sandler, which is a sales training process, they call this getting an upfront contract, asking ahead of time, what does this look like? If I do this, will you do that? Are we on the same page here? And most important to this upfront contract is, will you promise to tell me no if I'm not going to meet your needs? Because that's one of the biggest wastes of salespeople's time, is somebody who doesn't have the guts to say, this isn't working for me. And it's the second best response. Obviously, the first best response is a yes or a sale, but the second best response is a quick no. The worst response is a maybe, or I'll think about it, et cetera. So this is what you want to do at the curious stage. And then at the serious stage, they have shown some urgency. Again, depending on your market, this could be very different. How do they show that urgency? What do they need from you to close the sale? And that's the actions that you take. And then, of course, once they've bought, you fulfill their purchase. But this is the way I typically describe this process, the buyer's journey, these 4 stages: clueless, curious, serious, sold. Today only, for your special enjoyment, we have a bonus. 2 extra stages. What happens after they have bought? Mm-hmm. If you sign up now, you'll get these 2 extra stages right there in your email box. These 2 stages are loyalty and matchmaker. So the loyal buyer is somebody, after they've bought, they're going to buy again. So they are a repeat customer, or they are loyal. They bought once, and how do we know if they're going to be loyal? Well, we test if they want to buy more. Sometimes this is an upsell, meaning they bought once, you ask them to buy something different. The quintessential McDonald's. You want fries with that? That's an upsell. You've already spent the time, money, effort to get them in the door. They bought something. Let's get them to buy a little bit more. Another, depending again on what you're selling, who you're selling to, you might offer repeat sales. Well, can we set this up again? So this is something that has started to happen in the hair salon industry. It used to be that they'd let you walk out after you were done, and you would call them when you were ready to have your hair done again. And now the smarter ones are saying, can we schedule your next appointment now as you're leaving? So this is an offer for repeat sales. My dentist does this, after the cleaning. Well, should we get you next 6 months? We'll put it in the calendar right now. Another action you can take in this is the loyalty rewards programs that you see this a lot in supermarkets. They're obviously doing it for other reasons. They want to know some of the data and they can sell it to their customers. But it's also a way of rewarding you for being loyal. So you can do as much as you can to encourage this and to try to inspire loyalty and repeat customers, because you've already spent, like I said, the money, the time, the effort at the front end of the buyer's journey to do the marketing, to get them into the sales process. Why not capitalize on that? The last one is the matchmaker. And these are people that refer other people to you. And there's really not a whole lot you can do to inspire this. Although in some industries you can. In some industries you can have an affiliate marketing process where you actually pay them for it. Sometimes it's called bird dogging or a finder's fee. And if that's the norm in your industry, then you should probably, take advantage of it. If it's not, there's just some people who it's their personality to connect everybody they know to everybody else they know. You may have friends that are always trying to set their single friends up on dates. I've got a girl for you. I've got a guy for you. That's just their personality. What you can do for those people is, first of all, make it easy. If you'd like to refer somebody, here's how to do it. And then secondly, thank them and reward them. It's a very different kind of reward if people do it out of the goodness of their heart than if they're in a official affiliate bird dogging program. Generally, if they're not in a program like that, and if it's not the kind of thing that happens in your industry, paying for it doesn't work. It's not going to inspire somebody who's not going to do this, but a surprise reward could be. So you take note of who responds, et cetera, and once in a while, say, hey, you've sent 5 people to us that have become wonderful clients. Can I send you a gift certificate to go out to dinner or something like that? So these are some things that if this is applicable to you and your business, make sure that you take advantage of this, because it will make your sales process better and your cost of customer acquisition much cheaper. So I do have a handout, which is just a little more formal way of looking at what we just discussed. For each stage, there's a page for you to document how you know people are at that stage and what you should do at that stage. So I'll include that as well. If you'd like a copy of this handout, it's just a Word document. You can go ahead and email me. So the next piece is progress. How are we going to know? So this was the third P. We had personas, we had the pipeline, and now we're saying, how do we track the progress, and how do we report on this? And the tool for this is a CRM. A CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, and it was actually developed for customers, not necessarily sales prospects, but people who have ongoing relationships with you. Like, if you're an insurance company, then the people who buy from you, then maybe they have a claim and you want to track all this information, et cetera. But it's also very useful for sales. So a CRM should do at least these 4 things. It should be able to be a place where you collect people's contact information. So you know everything about them, company they work for, how to contact them, et cetera. And it should be the history of all your interactions. Most CRMs work seamlessly with your email right now. Either they are your email or they work through your email. The clunkiest ones, you have to have a BCC address that sends your email to the CRM. But they generally don't, except for the really fancy ones, connect to your phone system, for example, or for meetings. So those, you have to go put those interactions into them. And you should put enough detail in them so that when you pull this back up, you remember what you actually said. It's not like, oh yeah, I talked to Joe and we talked about the thing. 6 weeks from now, you pull that up. What thing was that? What did he say? What did I say?
Who's Joe?
Who's Joe Ray? Well, you'll know who's Joe because the contact information is there. But the history should be detailed. And this is a discipline that you just have to get into. A good CRM will have the stages through the pipeline that you can define, so that as somebody moves from one stage to the next, or sometimes backwards, you can assign them to that stage, so that you can say, I'd like to see all the people who are serious right now that I need to work with. Because like I said, you can't always control what somebody does, but you can decide who to work with. And the more people you have further along in that pipeline, the closer you are to closing some deals. And then the other thing a CRM needs to have is a way to schedule follow-ups. Some of them connect more seamlessly with your calendar. Some of them become a second calendar. I think that's a terrible idea because you always lose things when you have more than one calendar. But this is, again, a discipline that every time you interact with somebody, you need to put in what's the next step for you to do. Somebody says, well, get back to me in a couple of weeks. Even if you didn't set an appointment or they weren't willing to set an appointment, you should put a note in your calendar, follow up with them. And then, you show up for work. When you're working on sales, your CRM should pull you up a list of these are all the follow-ups you have today or this week or whatever. So those are the 4 things that a CRM must do. Then at the advanced level, it can report to you things like how many new leads did we get this week or this month? What's the number of people that have moved from this stage to that stage? What's our conversion percentage for these different stages? So you can refine your process and say, we're really lousy at generating leads, but boy, once they get to the serious stage, we're really good at closing them, or vice versa. And then you can get better at the pieces and the stages that you're not so good at. If you have a team, a CRM should report productivity by salesperson. And the most advanced one is reports by cohort. A cohort is the timing of when people became customers. So let's say you have an ad campaign, you're doing Google AdWords, and you will track what happens to all those people that responded to your Google AdWords, how long it took them to become customers, what percentage of them became customers. And then you might say, well, let's try Facebook ads. And so you track them as a different cohort, and you see, do more people become customers? Do less people become customers? Maybe fewer people become customers, but it costs you less, so it's still worth it. Those are the things that an advanced CRM will allow you to track. So that's our summary here. We talked about the personas, and that was more. We did more of that in the first part of this. Today we got more into the pipelines and then how you track progress. So that's the end of our official discussion. This has been recorded. If you'd like that handout, just email me if I can help in any other way. If you have questions about this, please email me, john@ceobootcamp.com. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. That was fantastic as usual. And it's interesting when you look back to see, as you look through those buyer journeys and say, okay, well, how did we get some of these people? When you have that CRM and it actually tracks it and you're not just anecdotally trying to remember, when we went through that exercise, we saw that we had a lot more repeat people back for closings than I would have guessed. If you said, what's the percentage of, it's like people don't buy houses that often, but between investors who do buy and refinances and things like that, we found that we really did have a lot of more repeat people than we thought, which can change the tone of your messaging, or at least maybe the delivery of what you're going to do. So it was just a really good exercise, because you think, like it's my business, I know what's going on. But as the size increases, it's sometimes more difficult to make those relationship assumptions and be correct.
Yeah. And John, it works the same way too for the clients that become your matchmakers. It's the same thing. Anecdotally, you think, well, this person seems to consistently refer, but until you really start to look at where people came from and who referred them, you really do find that some clients do become your kind of a spokesperson for you and a matchmaker, and they do consistently refer a lot of business. You may not kind of remember the name or where, but sometimes it may surprise you, and that also prompts you sometimes to do something for these people, like, oh my God, thank you so much, you've sent this many clients, and here's a gift card or a bottle of wine or something. It's tracking things like that to sort of show that you do appreciate those referrals, and because we have been a lot more conscious, I know, on our end, to talk to our clients that are really good clients and say, hey, you were a great client because you meet all of these, you know, you check all of these boxes for us. So you must know other people that are sending, you know, you see all of this good work that we did for you and saved you money on taxes and all that stuff. And so please send your friends that are in similar situation. And it does pay off to talk about it, but then you also do see that people are responding and do become good matchmakers for you.
Yeah, and at the very least, you know, you should close the loop with somebody when they send a referral.
Mhm.
Even if it doesn't work out, you can say, hey, you know, thanks for sending that person. I talked to them. It's not going to work out for now, but I really appreciate that you did this. And that means a lot too. So,
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, thank
absolutely.
you so much. We
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate you joining us and appreciate you sharing all your wisdom, because it's serial entrepreneurs like you that help pave the way. They're like dog years when you've been in several different kinds of businesses. 1 year with your experience is like 7 years of one person in their own business with no ability to see how someone else is doing it. So
well, one of the things I found is that there's so much that's similar across businesses. The things that companies make, that they sell, the services and products, those are very different. But the sales process, at least at this high level that we talked about today, that's very similar. And almost all of the support services, the support process, hiring, management, tracking the money, planning, all that kind of stuff is very, very similar across all industries and across a lot of size differences. Companies can be different in size, but the processes are similar. So that's what I found in my dog years.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of dog years, as you get on, next week we're going to be talking about pensions. So once you hit those dog years and you want to have some money, you need to be planning for that now. So Marina will be joining us next Tuesday to be talking about that. So now's your chance to consider yourself warned. Perfect. Thanks so much for your time, John. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. If you need anything, just let us know. We're also happy to have you email any suggestions or topics that you'd like to hear about. We try to run the gamut from real estate to tax to business. So anything like that that we might be able to help you with, let us know so that we can bring you the content that you'd like to hear. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye-bye.